What's good, y'all? Dr. T, Hasan Johnson. Y'all know what it is. Welcome back to the Onyx Report, Black Masculinist news for the day. I just got back from helping my son. I'm teaching him to drive. So we're going through all of that. And I don't know. It's just a trip. Bit of a strange place because didn't feel like but a minute ago he was, fitting in one of my hands. Now he's 6'7" and I'm working on teaching him how to drive. So we're halfway there. It's going pretty well. But anyway, that aside, wanted to touch on something. I wrote a Facebook post about it, but I wanted to share it with y'all because I thought it was important. It has to deal with a conversation I had very recently with a brother who I hadn't seen in a good long time. We were talking, and he shared with me essentially how his wife makes a lot more than he does, but the quality on this brother is ridiculous. So he's just a good dude all around. Community, he participates in the community. He's a teacher, he uplifts the youth. He's a coach, brilliant musician, all of that, all around good dude. And he's a father, and he's a brilliant father at that. You know what I mean? And yet he's with this woman that doesn't see his value strictly over his pay. Now, I'm going to get to his pay, and I'm going to contextualize that in a minute, but I just wanted to kind of say, look, first and foremost, I don't think the quality of a man is limited to his income by any measure. I don't. Kevin Samuels is doing something very specific for a very specific group. He's advocating for black men across the class spectrum, but his target audience is what he calls high-value men, who, in the beginning point of that definition, not the end point, the beginning of that point, is $10,000 a month for 5 years. Now, he's speaking to a very distinct group, and that is what it is. He's not saying that all brothers are limited to their income in terms of their value, but he's merely talking to that group. But here's the twist. Many of our women since the 1980s have been socialized, or I should say many black women since the 1980s have been socialized to believe that their men's worth is based on income. But there's a pretty critical irony there that a lot of them miss. They were taught to look for someone with six figures, which is ridiculous because six figures means everything from, 100,000 to 999,000 a year. That's an incredibly ridiculous range. So what does that really mean? And when you look at the value of the dollar from the 1980s to now, it's a ludicrous, arbitrary amount to measure a man's worth by. But here's the twist that we all, really seem to overlook. There are more black men that make six figures than black women. Now, there are more poor black men, and there are more unemployed black men, and more incarcerated black men than there are women in any of those categories. But there are also more brothers that make six figures as well. There are more brothers. It's something that people tend to overlook. There are more black male entrepreneurs than black female entrepreneurs. There are more making who are earning those higher amounts. And really, across from 18 to 65, there are, black men at every age level make more than their black female counterparts. There are just fewer of us. There's a couple million fewer of us in the workforce. And but at the most part, not just are there more six-figure earning black males earn more than their black female counterparts at every age level. So this idea about black men's worth only being tied to their income and that only being measured against a six-figure salary is already ludicrous because the average woman saying that for her age, her black male counterpart earns more than she does. So she may be, let's say she works at an Amazon factory, right? Well, the man on her level at her age actually earns more than she does. So we're not even talking about older men who earn more than she does. Even at her age, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the man her age at her class level still earns more than she does. And yet we've been taught we have no value unless A, we're six figures, or B, we meet her imaginary. We need to stop with this. And ultimately, that's what I want you brothers to walk away from this broadcast with. Your value is not measured by her arbitrary standards she couldn't even tell you where she got them from, short of family members, television, film. And Kevin has shown repeatedly that even for women who want that, 9 times out of 10, they don't qualify for that in the eyes of the men who have it. But because there's no standard for gender roles anymore and everything is at everything, we have women that cherry pick from both gender representations. They cherry pick from the traditional female narrative and the traditional male narrative, and they hobble together an idea of what it means to be Black woman that gives them the benefit of both worlds, right? They want to be dominant, they want to lead the household, they want to be the primary breadwinners, but then they still want to be protected, provided for, whatever. So if she makes 6 figures, there's still an expectation that you somehow make more than she does. And as I've had women tell me, as well as other brothers, her money is her money and your money is her money. Make this make sense. So she's alone and doesn't understand why? Yeah. But that aside, so we had to look at the data. Yes, more incarcerated brothers, more unemployed brothers, more homeless brothers, there are more of us on the bottom. There are also more of us on the top. There are more of us that are accomplished by the standards of the society, even though we don't get praised as such. And that's one of the critical differences. The stereotype that Black men are unemployed and don't achieve is propagated by the media. And it's such that, and Dr. Tommy Curry pointed this out in one of his recent papers. I did a broadcast with him about last fall. And basically one of the things he pointed out is that the racist, anti-Black misandrist perspective is actually rooted in racist scholarship and wholly appropriated by Black feminism. So their very ideas about Black men come from white racist scholarship that was produced with no empirical evidence. It was merely proffered as an idea about Black men produced out of thin air by white racist scholars. And in the 1980s, Black feminist scholars wholly appropriated those concepts. Wholly. So that said, the standards that many Black women are operating off of come from racist scholarship, especially when you saw these ideas propagated not only by radical Black feminists in the academy, and radical in this context, I mean in terms of obscure, right? Obscure and extreme. I don't mean it in a radical way as a positive. I mean it in terms of obscure and extreme, right? Once those ideas got propagated and pushed out into the mainstream, the likes of Oprah and Terry McMillan and Bell Hooks and a number of others, it became considered a truth, even though it really wasn't much more than a racist myth. So these ideas got appropriated, and that became the dominant narrative on Black men, even within families. Girls were taught at a young age to fear Black men, to not trust Black men. They were taught even by fathers how to be independent, so they didn't need Black men, with the subliminal text there being that Black men were going to be a problem. Depending on Black men was going to be a problem. But the reality is Black men are doing better than Black women, even without the state, the federal, and the philanthropic support that Black women get, which is really only, surpassed by white women who appropriated the whole concept of being a minority, right? So any kind of resources earmarked for minorities, white women absorbed, but just under them, Black women. And despite how much support they get, Black men are still doing better. We're just not credited as such. So back to this conversation with this brother. Before I tell you the amount he made, I want to qualify something. The median earnings for Black men are about $41,000. $41,000 per year. I want to clarify something. So when you go to the data, excuse me, right? What it means is if you earn $41,000 a year, it puts you in the top 23% of earners in the Black community. Right? Now we know about 40 odd percent of Black folk earn less than $21,000 a year by household, meaning you could have 3 people working in a Black household. 40% of our households earn less than $21,000 as a group. 60 are just under $37,000. But as individuals, if you earn $41,000, which is the median income for Black men, you are in the top 23% in the Black community in general. You're in the top 28% among Black men. The top 23 among the Black community in general. And in American society, you're in the top 33. So what does that mean? That means if you as a black male earn $41,000 a year, that's the median income that black males earn, you earn more than 67% of the rest of America. So you earn more than nearly 70% of the country at the median level that black men earn. And if you're black, again, you earn more than 77% of black America if you earn 41,000. 77%, nearly 80%. So the overwhelming majority of the black community, you earn as an individual more than if you make 41,000 a year. So when you have people tell you that you're not worth anything, you produce nothing, you have no value, because you only make 40,000. And this is a trip, because I've had women who made half of what I made tell me I don't make enough for them. You know what? I don't lose any sleep about it, because at the end of the day, again, if you make the median earning, you earn more than nearly 80% of the black community. So this woman that's telling you that, where do you think she likely stands, statistically speaking? But even if she makes more than six figures, that's such an infinitesimally small group. So what? Do not let these people convince you that they're balling. Black men are suffering. Do not. Again, I've said this before. You're really talking about 5 chicks at a restaurant in LA or Atlanta or New York or San Francisco, and you're letting them convince you that black women are just doing better than you simply because it's bull. They happen to live in urban areas, and you have a small select group of them that have been able to take advantage of their education and their areas to advance beyond the average. But still, for the most part, they're infinitesimally small. There are more black men that earn that than they do. So do not let that fool you. So that's the first thing. But I'm going to get to this brother. He earned roughly ballpark about $65,000 a year. I just want to clarify something. $65,000 a year for a black male. First and foremost, it meant that he earns more than 82% of all Americans. 65,000, 82% of all Americans. And in terms of black America, he is in the top 10%. You make $65,000 a year, you're in the top 10% of black earners. This is according to the Wall Street Journal in a piece they did where, I talk about this piece a lot because I think when you factor in the pandemic, the numbers are more than likely still pretty accurate, all considering. Right. That said, hold on. Here's my place. All right. So you're in the top 10%. You earn more than 90% of black America if you earn $65,000 a year. Do not get it twisted. Do not let people tell you your value or your worth based on whatever moods or trends they are following. According to the data, you are in the top 10% of black America if you earn $65,000 a year. And if you factor in other black men, you're in the top 12%. Right? And that's what I told the brother. I said, look, one, your value in terms of the quality of human being that you are is not limited to income. Income is the beginning of the conversation. That's all it is. It's the entrance point. And it is what it is. It doesn't matter. If you wanted to get rid of all kinds of wealth and you successfully got rid of capitalism, human beings would find another way to classify themselves. The classification itself is a natural act. How we are classified in this capitalist system is a product of capitalism, yes, but we classify ourselves as human beings, and people are going to do that regardless. Doesn't matter. But even when you play by those rules, black men are doing better than they're given credit for. And like I said, if you earn 65, do not let anybody tell you, and doesn't matter what you earn, don't let them tell you. Now, I'm not saying you can't improve and shouldn't improve. And keep in mind, you really don't come into your own until you're in your 40s anyway, as a man. So that is what it is. It is what it is. So take that into account as well. If you're 25 years old and you're earning, 40 grand, you're doing actually really well, because men, it takes us time to advance. It takes us time. We often don't get any help. Even within our families, we don't get help. I can tell you in black families, more often than not, you're left to your own devices because it's expected that you achieve on your own. It somehow becomes a measure of your manhood in and of itself, but whatever. The point of the matter is, We're more often doing better than we give ourselves credit for, better than we think. That's the thing I wanted you to walk away with. Right? So I told this brother, look, your value is not limited to that. Quality of your character is significant, but just don't get it twisted. At the same time, even though we are told our value is limited to our paychecks, at the end of the day, we still bring much more to the table than not. But if we limit it to income, you're still doing better than people think. And trust me when I tell you, there are plenty of people that have no problem getting with a brother in the top 10% of earners in his own community. It's what it is. And I just want you guys to remember that as well. So I didn't want to drag the point too far in, but I just really, and he was surprised when I said it. He was surprised when I said it, because that's not how we talk. That's not what we're taught. It's not what we're taught. But keep that in mind. So again, if you earn the median amount, you are at nearly greater income than 80% of the black community. That's at 41,000. If you earn 65,000, guess what? You're in the top 10% of earners. Know your worth on all kinds of levels, not limited to income. But if you want to have that income discussion, we can do that too. And although those 5 chicks sitting in a restaurant in San Francisco can tell you they earn more than you, trust me when I tell you the overwhelming percentage of black women, no, they don't. And if they're holding out waiting for $1 million man and they're overlooking the guy that makes 10,000 more than them roughly in their same age group, and he's a quality human being, trust me when I tell you, fellas, you dodged a bullet. And she will learn the weight of that decision later. Even if it's not public, even if it's just sitting in her room in the dark, realizing that she either chose someone that was poor quality or she doesn't have anyone at all. She'll have to deal with those demons on her own time. What I want you to walk away with is that you dodged a bullet. Keep it pushing. All right, fellas.